Hello everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our center court session that will explore what happens when you're not in an MBA classroom. You know, it turns out that really there's so many things to do that FOMO, the fear of missing out, is a reality at almost every MBA program. And the truth is, those things that occur outside the classroom often make for the most meaningful experiences and the most meaningful friendships. To talk about outside the classroom, organizations, clubs, culture, location, and more, we've got 4 schools represented on this seminar: Duke Fuqua, UNC Kenan Flagler, UT Austin McCombs, and Baruch Zicklin in New York City. Let me introduce our 4 panelists. We have 2 students and 2 school officials. So we're going to get some really interesting different kinds of views, I hope. 2 from the front lines and 2 from people who really, help organize and orchestrate many of the things that occur outside the classroom. So from Duke Fuqua, we have a student, Van Vicente. He is a first-year student. He is from the Philippines. Welcome, Van. From Kenan, we have Brian Adams, who's a second-year student in the MBA program at Kenan Flagler. From Texas McCombs, we have the director of Texas McCombs Global and Experiential Learning, Deirdre Stevens. I love the name Deirdre. I don't know what it is. There's something special about that name. I've always really liked it. Baruch Zicklin, we have Rebecca Watts, who's the director of graduate admissions. Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm really glad you're here. So obviously, a true MBA experience goes well beyond the classroom with a lot of options available to almost all the students. I wonder if we might go directly to a student first, Bryant, who is in his second year and therefore can talk a little bit about, what was available to him. How bewildering and overwhelming was it? And what did you choose to get involved in? Brian?
Yeah, happy to be here today and happy to speak on this topic. So my first year, I came in, after, I guess, essentially when the pandemic was kind of dwindling down. So the program was ramping up in-person activities. So naturally, to my personality, I wanted to get involved with everything. So just a short list. I was a part of, and I am a part of, and the co-president of the Kenan Flagler Pride Club. I'm a member of the Black Business Student Association. And then as far as career clubs, I recruited for consulting. So I was a part of the consulting club. We have these things called case families. I did that. And then outside of that, as far as activities go, I went on a few ski trips with our program. We have a hunting and fishing outdoorsmen's club that I was a part of. And we also started up what we call the Iron Heels, which is a triathlon club. So it was fun to get involved in all these different events. And then as well as I'm also a vet. So our vets club teams up with the ROTC, the ROTC program at UNC. So I was able to be a part of that as well. So it was really exciting to do all those things my first year and into my second year. I will say it was hard balancing time, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. But
I was going to ask you, Brian, do you ever go to class?
So, surprisingly, I do go to class, and I learned really quickly once recruiting started that sleep is important. So we dwindled down as the year progressed, but I still dabbled with all of those activities and all those clubs.
That's cool. And what do you think you get out of all that activity ultimately?
So for me, what was important about choosing Kenan Flagler was community. And that was shown through being in those activities. I wanted to be a part of a program where I could be immersed in a community and felt actually connected to the program and the people, and extend beyond that as far as being involved with the alumni programs outside of the school as well. So being a part of all those clubs just was an opportunity to really get to know my classmates. And that really fortified a friendship and a kinship when it came time to the harder times of your MBA program, which is recruiting. So that's what being involved in multiple clubs really contributed to me.
Yeah, I often think one of the real benefits is the ability to stretch your leadership muscles.
Yes.
When you have a leadership role in a club or organization, you're really learning how to manage volunteers and people and get stuff done. And after all of life is just getting stuff done. Deirdre, could you speak to that? Like, what do you think all of these other activities add to the full MBA experience from your perspective?
Absolutely. So I feel like I've dedicated my career into creating learning environments outside the classroom. And much of that is focused on leadership development. I believe that students learn just as much outside the classroom, if not more, than they do inside the classroom, or they at least remember it because it's stickier. They really have wonderful experiences that they remember and they learn from. And even if they make mistakes, they learn from those mistakes to be better leaders in the future. So the leadership component is incredibly important, I think, in these student organizations and other ways that students can get involved within their MBA programs.
And at UT, are there special things like investment clubs where people actually invest money and things like that?
Absolutely. So we have 7 what we call fellows programs, which are largely curricular in nature. They all have courses tied to them, but they have a strong co-curricular component as well. So students are spending significant time outside the classroom, engaging in those activities. And so they have a career focus, but they also have leadership positions within those fellows programs. We also have the program that I run, which is McCombs Plus, where we offer a myriad of communication and leadership training that's outside the classroom that students can opt into. It's all a volunteer. And we have micro consulting projects that are also in the co-curricular space that students can dig deeper into different functional areas and industries. We also have a coaching program that students can take advantage of outside the classroom. And so we give students up to 8 hours to meet with a roster of over 50 coaches. They're executive and leadership coaches. So students can really dig deep into those leadership skills if they discover a deficiency, or even better, to try to strengthen the things that they're really good at so that they can shine in those interviews and those first jobs so that they can achieve their goals.
Yeah, that's great. Now, Rebecca, I'm thinking that New York City is the ultimate laboratory of life in terms of the diversity of people, how dynamic it is, the fact that it never sleeps. If I'm a student in New York City at Baruch, I would find it very tempting just to explore the city and not explore all the other things that you have going at the school. How do you convince me not to do that?
So we actually have kind of a kind of culture understanding that New York is your campus. So our building, it's called the vertical campus because it's a high rise. You know, our buildings are not sprawling campuses. They go work, you know, hotel lobbies are like a whole culture that you work in hotel lobbies in New York. And even though you're not staying there, it's just you get coffee and you kind of sit down and work and do meetings. And so our students are definitely have a lot of opportunities to get outside of the classroom. I think site visits are a really exciting opportunity within New York Cities to be able to see the headquarters of a lot of different organizations and have people that are able to visit the campus, come to meetings. And I think, you know, the other thing is that a lot of people say that New York is an education in itself. It is an education. You come there, wherever you've lived, you are going to learn a lot. And so during that time, our students definitely feel like they've lived multiple years each semester because you have so many ups and downs. And I think that applies to the people that you meet. Like you said, New York never sleeps. And so the opportunities are pretty endless to where that students kind of feel like a kid in a candy shop and just can't decide what to put their focus on because they want to attend everything. And so I think that there's, you know, we'll probably talk about that later of how to, you know, focus your efforts when you want to do everything.
Yeah, really good point. Absolutely. You're a student, you arrived from the Philippines to Durham, North Carolina. I imagine just a transition coming from the Philippines for the first time to the States and into the South is quite a transition in and of itself. How do you pick what to get involved in and what are you involved in?
Yeah, I think that for me, an important reason why I wanted to be in a school that was a little bit, so Duke's class size is a little bit smaller than like other comparable programs. It's about 400. It was like a very manageable space for me to get to know people. And then also being in the South, I think actually helps build out those relationships because we're in Durham, we're in a very small town. There's a lot of things to do around here, and like the food in North Carolina is surprisingly good, as like Brian would probably be able to testify. But I do think that like being in such a kind of insulated environment with like a bunch of your cohort really helps like kind of carve out those relationships. It helps you like look for spaces to seek times to hang out with each other. It makes it so that all of these social events, like half the class goes or even more. And there's like a really big sense of community around the all around Fuqua. As far as what I'm involved with our Pride organization as well. Fuqua Pride. I'm involved in something called Fuqua Vision, which is like one of my favorite clubs on campus. It's basically like SNL, but on campus. So we make skits that parody kind of student life, recruiting, and it's always like a really exciting moment every single semester. And I'm also involved.
Every semester you have a show?
Yeah, so every semester we have a show. We film all these skits. I was in a couple last semester, and then we broadcast it to like our huge auditorium where like most of the class shows up and we all like have a good laugh. And like all of these are archived somewhere on YouTube if any prospective students want to see. And then at the same time, I'm also involved kind of pretty heavily in like things that aren't necessarily organized extracurriculars. So like being at Duke, like there's like a lot of opportunities to, just have fun and like do like fun stuff, right? So this past weekend, I was at the Duke UNC game at Cameron, which we won. Sorry, Brian. And like in order to get those tickets, we had to like camp out on campus for like a couple, like over a weekend, like in the freezing cold over tents. So like all of these kind of weird opportunities on the larger campus are some like things that I always kind of prioritize too.
Yeah. Now, Brian, I wonder how do you handle FOMO, right? I mean, it's an inevitable consequence of having too many choices. And in any really good MBA program, there are so many things that you could sign up for. And you don't want to sign up for too much stuff and stretch yourself in a way that doesn't allow you to really take full advantage of them, or that even cheats the other members because you can't pull any weight in them. So how do you make those decisions? How did you do it?
I'm a walking billboard for understanding prioritization. And everyone's going to say prioritization when you come into the program, but the realities are all these programs have so much to offer and they're always so fun and engaging that it's hard to figure out what to do and what takes priority. So for me, I knew that the first thing that was important to me was my identity, the intersection of being a queer Black person. So for me, anything that had to align with Black Business Student Association and Pride Club, I was going to prioritize that. Secondly, was my career. So understanding any activities outside the classroom that contribute to me being able to succeed in getting an internship and eventually a return offer to my job, that was important. Then after that, I knew that I wanted to explore things that I never had opportunities to explore, given my background coming from the South. So for me, exploring activities that I wouldn't naturally be drawn to. So insert the skiing activities, inserting actually working with Duke's Pride Club on certain events, and then also just exploring North Carolina in general. So going to Asheville, going to the Outer Banks, going to Raleigh, and just really immersing myself in the state and understanding what that was, because I'd never been to North Carolina. I've never spent this much time. So I needed to like really truly immerse and understand like why I chose to come to the state, and then really get the riches of that from this experience. So that was my prioritization timeline when I think about it. But with that being said, there's always going to be something pulling at you, especially as you get further into the program. So just really going back to what I was saying earlier and understanding that these were my priorities. And if it doesn't kind of align with those, then I passed it by on some things.
Yeah, of course. Now, Rebecca, is that the way to approach it? Like you go in and you say, hey, these 3 things are most important to me. That's what I'm going to sign up for. And then here and there, you pick and choose. What's your advice?
I feel like, especially I think a lot of people are probably looking at a 2-year MBA or, that kind of thing where you're all leaving the workforce, you're investing in your education for 2 years. And I feel like part of that is looking inward, developing yourself. There's a whole world of internships that people can only apply for and be eligible for while they're in a graduate program. people would kill to be able to apply to these internships, but you've got to be in grad school or you've got to be in school. So I think there's a lot of things that you want, you don't want to push through it too quickly. You don't want to kind of blink and it be over. And so I think that there's a couple approaches to kind of prioritizing what you invest your time in. I think one of them is what your strength is, your identity, really focusing. I think that a lot of students get a combination of their community that's going to help ground them and support them. New York City is very busy. People come in and out. They're going to go grab a subway, and so go grab a train. Being able to have an invested time in each other is really important. So a lot of them kind of do that, but then they also try to do something that's going to stretch them, because personal and professional growth go hand in hand. And so there's a student that I really admire, and she is very shy, and she is really working on herself. She's done MBTI assessments and all kinds of working with a career coach on building her confidence and kind of professional relationships with others. And so she signed up to be the alumni kind of contact for Zicklin Women in Business, because it stressed her out so much to introduce herself to people that she doesn't know and meet people and ask for guest speakers and develop those relationships, that she did the thing that stretched her and scared her most. Because in school, you do have a safe environment to try things. You can reach out for help if you're stumped, or say, hey, I'm not getting anywhere with this. Can I see how you would reach out to them and learn from that, rather than where you're kind of on your own. So I think that's another kind of way to approach it, is doing maybe what scares you or challenges you. But I think it's really important to not just do all of that to find your community and find where your identity aligns, because that's going to be part of your support system.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. I mean, find your tribe, your comfort zone, and then find a place that you want to work on. It's not in your comfort zone. It's going to make you a little uncomfortable, in fact, but it's going to really help you develop as a person and a professional. Deirdre, you have some overall advice on, a new MBA coming into a program, a 2-year program, seeing all these opportunities. How do you decide what to get involved in and what not?
Yes, I always tell students that the best course of action is to identify 3 to 5 goals that you want to accomplish during your program. And also think of a few longer term goals as well. I think these goals should be both personal and professional, kind of like Bryant was saying, some things are very important to you personally, so you should definitely still invest in those while you're taking advantage of all the wonderful things your MBA program has to offer as well. And then as you have all these opportunities to get involved with things, rigorously study your goals and see how that activity fits. Sometimes you still want to do that activity, then you may need to revise your goals. You may not be able to accomplish everything you originally thought you wanted to accomplish because you want to revise them to be able to make time for that activity. But the FOMO thing is real. I've worked here for a long time. I've seen it over and over and over again. Students get involved in things they shouldn't because they'll feel like they're going to miss out, and then they don't achieve some of their goals by the end of their program because they let their time be diverted by all these wonderful things. And that's a learning experience as well. I mean, I think that we all make missteps through this process. I love what Rebecca had to say about challenging yourself, but also finding that community. I think that's super important. And that all should be part of the goals as well. Like how do you challenge yourself? How do you stretch yourself? How do you find peace and comfort as well on this journey? Because it's all important. But definitely setting those goals and trying to do your best to achieve them is what
I know if I was at UT, I'd be in the barbecue club. And if there's not a barbecue club, I'd be starting one. Hey, Van. Okay, so you're in some fun things like the but what about professional development? Like for many people who want to, let's say, go into consulting, one of the big hurdles in getting into consulting is the so-called case interview, where they basically give you a set of facts and then ask questions based on those facts. And those interviews are incredibly challenging. And the beauty of every good MBA consulting club is you got second years who prepare you for those interviews. I wonder if you're involved in any professional clubs and how they're helping you.
Yeah, so I'm also recruiting for consulting. I just wrapped up a couple weeks ago, and I do think that like the infrastructure of so we have our consulting club, but I think this is kind of similar across like clubs from different schools. There's like a really robust infrastructure that second years will set up to make sure that you achieve success. So it all starts with like a series of seminars, and then you have case books that prepare you for the like specific case interviews and like give you a lot of practice reps. So we it's kind of like akin to like practicing anything. We call them reps. So the number of reps you get isn't directly proportional to your success, but I think that like you kind of need to like get the wheels turning and understand how casing really works. And at the same time, like there's so many, they offer just so many resources. Like they dive deep into like every single component of the case process. Like Bryant mentioned, we also have like case families where you're kind of placed with a bunch of first years, and the second year who will kind of guide you along and make sure that you're achieving your casing goals. And there's also support from the larger university for behavioral prep and understanding how to network. Like I think it's an international, like one big thing that a lot of us struggle with is understanding the US system of networking. Because like it's like completely unfamiliar. Like the fact that I have to like go into a coffee chat and then kind of schmooze with a consultant for 30 minutes.
Trust me, it's hard for Americans too.
Yeah. But it's like challenging, when you don't really know anything about American football, or and like all you have to fall back on is the weather and like where you went to school. And I think that like the school also provides a lot of support for that. But I also think that like for me, I haven't really found, there's like this stereotype that goes around that like business school students are competitive with each other. And I haven't really found that to be true. If anything, like, me and my peers, we've been like enormously supportive towards each other. We formed communities. We've helped each other case and interview prep. In the weeks leading up to like my interviews, like I had other first years who were just as busy preparing for their own interviews, like help me out with casing and behaviorals and make sure that I was on the right track. And I was doing the same for others. And I think that really, that's something that you will find that's something I found true here. And I think that's something that you're going to find true at many of these other programs.
Yeah, here's the other thing I think that would come from that. Brian can confirm this too. You gain self-confidence because you are with like-minded people who have similar ambitions. You're all in this together. And out of that process comes a level of confidence with which to pursue your dream, right? And because you got all the support around you. Brian, can you speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. I can't say this enough. When it comes to prepping for interviews, consulting, investment banking, private equity, what have you, having a support group, but also being in a program that truly offers support mechanisms for that. I remember going back to my interview week, coming right out of Christmas. I had a week of interviews lined up, and just the anxiety at night, like I couldn't sleep. But being able to text my co-president of the Pride Club and be like, I am having like the worst anxiety right now, and having someone just go like, hey, it's going to be fine. You're going to end up where you're supposed to be. Also, let's just go over some behavioral questions and maybe run through a case start just so like, that you have it. And that was like a 10 o'clock like freak out call. So having someone that's like down for you and being able to back you up and support you and stand on their shoulders and help you get through that is imperative. And that is also echoed throughout the Carolina community and the alumni network. I've had to cold call and cold email some people on LinkedIn and having them like immediately respond in like 24 hours, 48 hours, and be like, oh yeah, I'll hop on a call with you in 15 minutes. Like I can't understate or overstate how important to have that type of support system, to know you have that and you're locked into that even after you exit the program.
Yeah, no, that's crucial. I also think it's something I can appreciate or expect if you're an applicant and you don't quite get how supportive and helpful people are going to be for you. I mean, it's like having your own board of directors in a way, or your personal board of advisors who you can depend upon, which is something you may have a close friend or several close friends, but they may not have similar ambitions and similar goals. So they may not be in your kind of space. and can appreciate and empathize what you're going through. And I think that that is invaluable and tends not to be considered when people are looking at programs. They just don't think about that. Deirdre, I also wonder, of course, you know, McCombs is part of a marvelous public university, one of the best in the world. And there's so much stuff going on university-wide. So do MBA students get involved with some of the university stuff, or there's just so much stuff going on at McCombs that you can't even imagine getting involved in the broader university activities?
Well, of course, all of our students love the football games, and so they definitely are engaged in that way. We have our own tailgates, and that's very much a part of the culture to be a Longhorn and support the home team. There are also a lot of other opportunities for students to get involved on campus. You know, we have over 50,000 students. That means there's something always going on to fit all kinds of interests. There's plenty going on in the MBA program as well. And so what I'm hoping is students go back to that 3 to 5 goals thing, is like I was saying, and not get distracted by things that are happening. But there's always that opportunity. So we have wonderful speakers that come to the university, and so they can plug in if that speaker is representing an industry or functional area that they're interested in, or just something that they're interested in personally. They certainly have that opportunity. There are a lot of graduate student organizations out there that students can join above and beyond what's available in our MBA program as well. So while we have over 40 clubs and organizations, there are probably hundreds at the university that they can join. So that the key is not to get too distracted by everything that's happening, because you could be busy all the time and then again never accomplish those goals that are so important to you and why you came back to the business school. But the beauty of an organization or a university like this is just like Bryant was saying, the alumni network. We have 500,000 living alumni who are out there invested in your success. Anyone can pick up the phone and call a Texas X, and they will get the help that they are looking for, or the references they need, or just shoulder to cry on, whatever you need. Our alums are there. They all bleed burnt orange, as we say. So that's a wealth of resources that I don't know that students or prospective students always consider either when they're looking at programs.
Okay, Rebecca, in New York City, are there shoulders to cry on at Baruch?
Of course, absolutely. I think Baruch is one of those schools that they say that the students that go there are scrappy but sophisticated. So they come in and they work their network, but they're not entitled. And because of that, I think alumni have a special places in their heart for the Baruch students that come through. It's a public institution. It was created created as a free institution, as a school of commerce, been around for over 100 years. So yeah, I think that it's part of just the philosophy of opportunity and accessibility that really makes people proud to give back and get involved with Baruch. And then I think something else that we're really proud of is that we have the Field Center for Entrepreneurship. And within that program, there's a branch of the New York State Small Business Development Association that our students can get trained and work alongside a business development professional to help small businesses in New York with the many challenges that they're facing. So they could do this right away. Obviously, we have a phenomenal business consulting practicum or capstone, like a lot of programs do, but that's really in the last semester. So on top of all the case studies and consulting clubs, that's a great opportunity to be involved with New York City small businesses and really help them with a lot of the challenges that they're facing. Something else I wanted to mention that you guys were talking about is when it comes to those interviews, we have a resource library that our students have volunteered to, they choose to, we don't even ask for it, that they can make notes in a database about the interview, so they can better prepare people for that interview for certain organizations of like, hey, this really tripped me up. They really care about this. Make sure you know this history. So they kind of pay it forward in terms of better preparing people for maybe odd questions or kind of what to expect. So I think that that's also just part of the doing, preparing people that come after you, even if you don't know who they are, you want them to be successful. So share your knowledge when you can.
Yeah, that's great. Now, Van and Brian, I wonder if you can recreate for me a moment where you were involved in one of these extracurricular activities that was really meaningful or memorable to you. So maybe, Van, it could be when you were preparing for a case and what the case question was and what kind of feedback you were getting from whoever was helping you, or maybe it's a skit, an SNL type skit that you were involved in that's really memorable. Well, recreate it for us. One thing.
Recreate. I know exactly what moment I would probably point to as far as this is concerned. So I'm part of the Fuqua's Pride Club, and like one thing that we do every year is a drag show. So like a bunch of straight allies will dress up in drag and perform it's kind of like a music video, and perform for the whole class. So each class at Fuqua is split into sections like that are comprised of about 70 people each. And so like it's like a competition between sections. And as someone in Pride, I'm not allowed to like be in the video, but I was our director. And I think that like just like being in that room when all of these videos were shown, and then also like the process of shooting these videos, I think it like really exhibited it's like the power of allyship, I grew up in a country where being LGBT wasn't the easiest. And I had some reservations about the South, like anyone would like coming here, right? But my cohort, my community, all the allies that like came out and like dressed up in drag for a day and like bust out like hours in order to be in this music video. And then like the excitement that was in the room when all of these videos were being shown. I think that's like a very like one of a kind moment that I'm never gonna forget. And I think it really crystallized like what like the power of this community, like the willingness to like be open, and like all these people who have never even seen a drag show being down to do this is like just incredibly special.
No, I know what you mean. In fact, I attended a business school drag show last year in a theater in town here. I live in Charlottesville, Virginia, so it was UVA Darden.
Yeah.
And they had a whole theater, it was all live, and they had, professors who voted on the best performance. And it was a lot of fun. And it's exactly what you described. A lot of allyship and people supporting each other and just having a good time, period. Brian, your special moment so far.
Yeah, I was actually going to use that example, but I have a second example. So last year, March
Drag shows are big, man.
I know. Well, he's right down the street. But last year, March Madness, UNC, as we know, made it pretty far into the playoffs. So naturally, everyone cannot travel to the game, and I think it was in New Orleans or something like that. So the business school actually rented this jumbotron, this humongous television screen, and they put it up in the courtyard, and all the NBA students came out with lawn chairs and sat on this grass, and like it was very communal, and we watched the game together. And it was this very inspiring experience because I went to a very, very small undergrad that didn't really have a huge sports following. So to be immersed, and I also just very clear, didn't really care about sports until I came to UNC, because basketball, I guess it's cool, but it was more so the camaraderie of having everyone there and everyone rooting together. And once we won, everyone was hugging and high-fiving and beer was going everywhere. It's an experience I've never had before, ever in my life. So being a part of that, something that you just usually would see on television screen, but being able to be a part of that and see that, and it just kind of felt like afterwards, everyone was just so much closer watching something like sports. So I really enjoyed that bonding experience. And it was kind of like a serendipitous moment. I was like, oh, I'm very happy that I chose to come to this program and have this experience.
Right, that's great. Deirdre, obviously, in addition to the clubs and organizations and things like that that are actually on campus, MBA students also participate in case competitions, which can send them to different locations to compete. They may attend conferences and do immersions that are not mandatory or required by the program. Can you talk about all those kinds of activities that MBA students get involved in?
Certainly. So we, of course, have a number of those opportunities where they can do those on campus, but also in other places as well. You know, Austin is a incubator for business innovation and entrepreneurship, quickly becoming a capital for technology as well. So we have a lot of opportunities to connect with our partners locally for case competitions, pitch competitions. So there's no limit to the number of those kinds of things students can participate in. We also have, of course, conferences here on campus. In fact, this week, our students are hosting a diversity and inclusion conference that's open to the public. And so that is completely student initiated and student run. It's very exciting to be able to bring those topics to the campus and to the community as well. And of course, the immersions going abroad is a huge part of our students program. And our full-time program going on a short-term immersion program is not required, but is something many of them opt into, where they have the typical 2-week business trip culminating from a course that they take. In our program, they're always functional area focused. So you might study supply chain in Vietnam, for example. And so those are great opportunities. Those are the things that we find that students remember when they come back. Our alums remember when they come back. They're like, they may not remember sitting in that whatever finance class they took, but they remember taking their trip to China with a particular faculty member and what the things they learned and that kind of thing. So those activities are particularly important because, as I mentioned before, they're stickier. They're just more impactful. So students remember what they learned. They remember moments in time. They remember their missteps, for example. They may do something abroad that they learned later they shouldn't have done, and they'll remember not to do that in the future when the stakes are higher. School, MBA programs, graduate school, it's a laboratory, and it's a place for you to experiment and figure out what's right and what's wrong and what works in some situations, it doesn't work in other situations. And it's a safe space, and we're all supposed to make mistakes. And I think that's what the co-curricular does for us. Even with things that are graded, mistakes are okay. But it's really important in the co-curricular space for us to nurture that and make sure students feel safe and able to experiment.
Yeah, I like your metaphor of the laboratory, but I'm thinking of an adult Disneyland. There's so many fun things to choose from. And given what Brian and Van have chosen, I'm thinking it's more like Disneyland than a laboratory.
I prefer that too.
Rebecca, what are the sticky moments in your program, to use Deirdre's phrase? Some of those.
Yeah, I think case competitions are definitely something that students put so much effort into. I think because they know that they're going beyond the curriculum, they're more invested in it because they're taking time away from something else. And so I think it's kind of like their blood, sweat, and tears go in it. So whenever, I was just reading some of our student stories and they were like, we didn't even place, but we were so proud of ourselves because we'd never done anything like that. We worked so hard and it was just like their proudest moment. And so we have a ton of case competitions. We do Reaching Out MBA, which is for the LGBTQ community, and our students always participate. We actually send them there for that conference. We have generous donors that have made that possible. And so they participate in a case competition there. That's just the best experience. And so, yeah, I think case competitions are great. And then right now we have a partnership with the University of Bolzano in Italy. And our students it's like a side project where they're working with students from Italy that are coming here as part of a dual degree. And then our students, because we've been developing this partnership for the first time, some of our students on the project are actually going to go to Italy, and they're working with a real company in Europe. And so it's really exciting because they have a team that it's kind of like a case competition that they're communicating with every day through WhatsApp chats. And the students are in Italy, and so they're going to go back and forth. And the students that are part of that just feel like it has been the most rewarding experience, that kind of no matter what comes out of it, they are stretching and growing. And I think that investment of your time and energy leads you to be really proud of what you contributed to that experience.
I wonder if we can talk a little bit about how do you achieve balance? What's your advice? Because of so many opportunities, you could get really distracted. So how do you balance your studies with all these other things that you can do? Van, do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah. So like I think everyone here has touched on this a little bit, but there's just so many things to do. And I think for me, the way to achieve balance has been to like prioritize things that give you energy, right? I think even more so than time, energy is like the big compromise. Like you're just like all of these, there's a lot of things that like take up so much space in your life. And if you invest too hard on things that aren't giving you energy and instead taking it away, then you're not going to have space for anything else. But if you keep doing things that, you know, keep you pumped and give you energy and make you happy to be there, then you're going to have even more space to take in things in your life. And I think so prioritizing what gives you energy, whether that's a club, a class, hanging out with your friends, getting a beer after school. If you prioritize those things, then you're going to be even more prepared to take on everything else that campus has to offer you.
Yeah, exactly. And Brian, I bet you this goes back to your setting priorities to begin with, right? I mean, that's how you achieve some balance.
I would say even more so. I am a career switcher, like many people are. I was in the military for 9 years. So for me, and I was an electrical engineering major in undergrad. So I didn't really have the business acumen and the business knowledge needed. So, and to be quite frank, I was a little bit scared of finance and accounting coming into business school. So for me, I knew that I needed to over-index and kind of force myself into that uncomfortable aspect of it. And the great part of business school is, as Deidre and Rebecca said, you can make mistakes. So you can, not do so well on some exams, and you can talk to the professors and they will help you, like, oh, yeah, you debited the wrong thing, credit this instead. Like those little moments and nuances. So I know that I need to go in heavily on that side of my business school experience. However, I knew that in order for me to come out of those very stressful classes, I needed to also have, like Van was saying, something that I enjoyed doing. So I also coach CrossFit. So that's where I find peace. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy the activities of fitness. So the balance to that's where I got my energy, was leaving class and going and coaching a class and being around people energized to work out. So for me, along with those prioritizations, I had a hard-coded work that I did that helped bring energy and balance out some of the stress that came from the rigors of an MBA course.
Yeah, that's really great insight. So Deirdre, if you're a prospective student, an applicant, how do you find out about all these different clubs and organizations? Let's say, in a way, before you step foot on campus, after you've been officially enrolled, but you haven't actually gone on campus yet, it's probably a good thing to kind of know what's available and to make some choices even before you arrive. How does someone do that?
Well, of course, there's a lot of information available on our website, but I think the absolute best way to learn about the program is to talk to a currently enrolled student. And we have a student organization that's set up to do just that. It's called McCombs Ambassador Committee. They are the representatives of our MBA admissions team, and they are always available to talk on the phone with the student about their experience, via email. It's just a great way to connect with someone who's already here. We do have information sessions and campus tours and all of that, but just any opportunity to talk to someone who's experiencing this, what decisions have they made? What are they involved in? What do they wish they would have known when? Super important information. We also, for our students who've committed to us and are coming, we have something called the McCombs Adventure Program. It's a pre-orientation program that has leadership development or entrepreneurship aspects, but also is a great way to get to know other students coming into the program before the program starts. There's a second year trip leader aspect of that, so you can learn from them as well. So that's something that I would encourage our admitted students who are committed to coming to take part of that event as well, so to be able to learn more about what they're getting into and how to get started right away in the right direction.
Yeah, that's good. Rebecca, your advice?
Yeah, we also have a graduate student ambassador program, and we have their bios so that you can see where they're from, what they majored in, what they're involved in, a little bit about their experience, so you could choose an ambassador. Even if it's not for the program that you're interested in, you may align with them in some of their things that they're involved in, or identity aspects of what clubs they're involved in. So yeah, we have a student ambassador program. We also have, if you just Google Zicklin student experience, we have a page where we've collected all of these experiences, and we've really talked to students to come up with this page. And so, for example, if you go to case competitions, I took a look at this morning before this, and I was just blown away by the number of case competitions our student can take advantage of. And they're broken into, information systems, data analytics, finance, environmental impact. And I think, no matter what you're interested in, we have an Executives on Campus program, which is a mentorship partnership that our students can apply for and be selected for. That's very prestigious. Whatever kind of sparks your eye on that page, we have, more information that you can follow and kind of continue to explore from there.
Great. And I'll just add that, many student clubs and organizations actually have web pages of their own at the different schools. And they would include who are the current officers of the club. So you could reach out to them as well. Mm-hmm. And after all, if you're going to do a career switch, and let's say you're going to go into consulting, it wouldn't be a bad idea to contact the head of the consulting club in advance of showing up on campus. And you're right, doing orientation, there will be plenty of opportunities to see what is available and to actually sign up for a bunch of them. So Van, Brian, Deirdre, Rebecca, thank you so much. It's been a really terrific session. Really enjoyed all of you and enjoyed what you had to say. Some great advice. And for all of you out there, man, it is an adult Disneyland, or okay, a laboratory, and there's plenty of stuff to do. And the biggest problem is figuring out what's going to be most meaningful to you and helpful in your life and your career. I hope you enjoyed the session. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching.